The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Now, back to your turn on 1330 WEBY, Northwest Florida's talk radio. The phone lines are open, so call in and join the conversation at 623-1330.
Aren't you glad that you patiently waited? Carl is back. He is in the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio, and you are with him. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallops.
All right, welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America, and welcome back to our international listeners as well. Linda Jordan is with us, just as I promised. Linda was on. Was it last week or the week before, Linda? I know we've had you very recently. When was it?
Yeah, last Friday.
Was it last Friday? My days are running together. But anyway, I knew we had you on very recently, but a lot has happened in the last 7 days. Folks, let me just remind you who Linda Jordan is. Linda Jordan will introduce herself a little more profusely in a moment, but she's out of Seattle, Washington. She took some deep interest in the Obama eligibility case, particularly as it related to his Social Security number, the one he's using right now, which doesn't even pass E-Verify, and which has all kinds of intrigue and possible corruption aligned with it. And it's the one he's using. And so she took an interest, filed a case in a court in Washington, and she got fined for it. Linda, tell everybody exactly who you are, how you got involved in this, as if nobody heard the thing last week, because we'll have a lot of new listeners today. And then tell us, after this court did this atrocious thing to you last week, something has turned. The tide may be turning a little bit. You've got some exciting and some interesting news to tell us. So tell us the whole story.
Okay, I will. In a nutshell, in August 2011, I decided that I could no longer be on the sidelines concerning Barack Obama and the forged identity documents that he's using. And following the lead of a private investigator out of Ohio named Susan Daniels, who discovered that Obama was using a phony Social Security number, I built on her research, and I decided I was one of his employers, and I ran his number through E-Verify, a government-run program, to check to see if your employees are eligible to work in the United States. It came back flagged for fraud. Very few numbers out of 451 million Social Security numbers are flagged for this kind of fraud. I believe it's around 46,000. So it takes a whole lot of fraud to earn one of those flags, right. And Barack Obama's number earned one.
Good gracious.
So after I did that, I published a report and sent it out, and I think WorldNet Daily did do a big story on September 11, 2011.
I think Drudge picked it up, too, because I remember there's a lot of hoopla when you published that report. Yeah.
Right, but no one with authority or responsibility did anything about it. Now, Carl, if I ran your number through, if you were my employee, right, and it came back flagged with one of those special indicator codes, you have to explain to me what's going on.
Right.
I have to send you a letter, which I did to Barack Obama. I don't know if you knew that. I sent him a letter informing him that I had run his number, that it had come back flagged with a special indicator code, and then I needed him to verify his Social Security number, name, and birth date. I, needless to say, never heard back from him.
Of course not. But I didn't know you did that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I did. I certainly did, because I'm required by law to as one of his employers.
Right.
So anyway, that didn't go anywhere with people who are charged with the responsibility to follow up on it. And so I decided in August of 2012 that when the election came around, I was going to challenge the placement of his name on the ballot, because he is using forged identification, birth certificate, and phony Social Security number. And so I worked for a year on this case.
Yeah, he's also using a forged birth certificate too, according to a criminal investigation. So go ahead.
Absolutely, his birth certificate is forged, and that's the main document that I focused on. Because you remember, in April of 2011, he, with great fanfare, held a press conference and released his original birth certificate. And he invited the public to go on the White House website and look at it.
Yes, he did.
See for yourself that it's bona fide. So I took him up on that offer.
And then
my own research
and don't forget, Linda, after he did that, he went on the talk show circuit making fun of us for checking him out or for not believing him.
Yes. And so like a lot of other people, I did look at his birth certificate. I concluded on my own research and on the research of other much more knowledgeable people that it is a forged document. It's such a bad forgery, like I said last week, it couldn't get him into a cheap bar on a Saturday night.
Right.
And I would even add, not even if he was a pretty girl. It's that bad.
That's pretty bad.
Now I filed my case to keep him off the ballot. And because, the presumption of truth that our Secretary of State affords candidates claims of eligibility had been undermined by his use of forged ID, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
And so that was my claim in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I filed August 27th. It was dismissed August 29th. I filed an appeal to our state Supreme Court on September 4th, and it was dismissed as frivolous on December 4th. And the Attorney General had asked them to dismiss it as frivolous, and then had asked for almost $13,000 in sanctions, basically penalizing me for accessing the judicial system, which is my right.
It is your right, and not only that, but what's frivolous about presenting hardcore evidence that we probably have an illegal usurper as commander-in-chief? What's frivolous about that?
Absolutely. I mean, don't we have the right to confirm if he is indeed using forged ID? And in any other case, the evidence that I presented would at least demand an evidentiary hearing.
Oh, yes.
And when a document, the authenticity of it is called into question, the evidence rules demand that the original be produced.
Yes.
So any other case, the original would be produced, but not in this case.
Yeah, not in this case. So basically you were fined $13,000, but in the last 7 days, and that's why I'm having you back on the show today, something has happened. Tell the folks. We've got about 5 minutes. Tell the folks what's happened.
Okay, well, a friend of mine suggested to me about 8-9 days ago or something that I email a lawyer in Washington State named Richard Sanders. Mm-hmm. Now, Richard Sanders was, I don't know if he still has a title justice, but he sat on the Washington State Supreme Court for 15 years.
Wow.
15 years, and I have admired him very much. He's pro-life, and he gets raked over the coals for that by the liberals all the time. Mm-hmm. He's a staunch defender of the Constitution, but he truly believes in the rights of the average day citizen to access the courts.
Right.
And he really doesn't like to see the heavy hand of government come down on someone like me.
Right.
Who's representing themselves. And so I emailed him and just basically said, could you give me any guidance on what to do next?
Right.
And he responded. He said, I'm worried about deadlines. Send me this and this. And I was so excited. And so I did. And then about 3 or 4 days ago, he called me and he said, I'd like to represent you. He charged me a flat fee, a very fair price. And he went to work right away, and he submitted yesterday a motion on my behalf to the Washington State Supreme Court. I'd love to see the look on their face.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically discovered through a request he had made to the Attorney General that the state actually billed for this case something like $3,400, but they were asking for almost $13,000.
Yeah, that's they needed $10,000 for themselves. Well, listen. But he believes that this is what they've done to you is absolutely wrong, and he's willing to defend you. And it's my understanding that you're the first civilian that he has ever defended since he's been off the Supreme Court bench. Is that correct?
Yes, and he just lost election in November here. He ran and lost. I'm the first person that he's represented in 17 years.
Yeah.
He was that moved and motivated. Now, I can't tell you what he thinks about the forged identity documents or Obama.
Right.
I just know that he's defending the little guy and our right to access the judicial system and to request an evidentiary hearing.
Right.
And he says he did a press statement even. And you know what? I have to tell you, I contacted over 20 lawyers in the past year, and particularly the last few months, to try and help me because I knew I was way over my head and I was getting really tired.
Right.
My brain was hurting. And none of them would touch me.
Yeah.
They would not even touch, even when I was offering them cold, hard cash. And the few that would even talk to me a little bit on the phone said, don't use my name.
Right.
Most of them said, I don't agree with you politically, or I'm a blue state voter. And so here I really was like unclean.
Yeah.
And I thought, gosh, these guys will represent a pedophile or a murderer, but
yeah,
not a
but
conservative.
Yeah, but not somebody who's asking about documents that are proven to be forgeries. You know, we've only got a few seconds left, Linda, and I just want to say, I don't know where you are, if you're a woman of faith or not, and I'm not trying to...
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. I figured you were, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I believe that we're also dealing with a deeply spiritual issue here. Because how can it be that all the media is terrified of him, all these attorneys are terrified of him, judges are terrified of him, the courts are terrified of him, you know, congressmen, I bet your congressman hadn't done a thing. And your
Right.
congressman won't do. The Congress is afraid. 530-something members of Congress, they're terrified of him.
Yes,
I mean, that's
yes.
spiritual, Linda. That's
It
gotta
is, I
gotta be
agree.
spiritual. How can it be that thousands of people won't even talk about it because they're terrified?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, but Linda, we're going to keep praying for you, and thank you, and keep us updated, because the listeners here on the Gulf Coast, we are very interested in what's happening in your case. God bless you,
Okay.
Linda Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Folks, bye, Linda. We will have Linda back, and we're going to keep up with her case. This is amazing. A Supreme Court justice, retired, who is taking her case. First civilian he's ever defended. He will do it for her. He's already filing motions on her behalf. So keep Linda Jordan in your prayers, because see, what's happened is the Supreme Court out there thought they were going to make an example out of her. See, they thought they were going to terrify her and thus terrify everybody that knows her, to keep we the people from questioning the great one, the Emperor, Barack Obama. But we the people will not go away. And neither will Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.